for Tim, Alan and AJ. Here is a repackaged video recording of a Zoom conference call that I had with Robert Blonde on June 9, 2025 regarding a past life crossing between Alan and AJ. The crossing reading brings forth a past life in 600 AD China between Alan as Yan Chang, female younger daughter of a metal worker, 80 kilometers north of Peking. AJay as ABing, male younger son of a farmer, 100 kilometers north of Peking. In that past life, ABing, AJay, was a much younger son of a traditional Chinese farmer who thought little of ABing, so much that the son left home for a larger town to the south to look for work and a new way of life. Yan Chang, Alan, was the only fully younger daughter of a man who was a metal worker, armory and such. The metal worker father took on ABing as an apprentice, and this ultimately led to ABing becoming married to the daughter, no children from the marriage. ABing became good at the metal working craft, indeed rather good, and decided after a time to return to his father's village and look for the father's approval and blessing, to get neither, indeed, to get total rejection from the father. This led to a depression cycle, ending with the now wayward son, to leave his wife, forever. The daughter remarried and stayed with the metal working craft, eventually dying from lung disease problems associated with the metal working craft, adverse smoke inhalation. Robert's advice: approach things as per present time, despite memories of the relationship failure in the past where the two of them were really different people from today. Just know that memory is present, but really not applicable in present day. Approach being together, looking towards shared creativity, and knowing that the mind is in charge of present day actions, not the past.
The first one that comes into this particular incarnation would be that of the one who's referred to as see in this particular incarnation for this one to be born male. We see for that of the land area to be referred to as that of China. We see for that of the time period would be approximately 700 years AD. We see for this one to be born and brought up within an area approximately 100 kilometers more north of what is referred to as Peking within the present time. We see when this one was born, for this one to be born within that of a small farming community. We see for this one to have that of a father in that particular lifetime that was always within tradition. And within tradition was that of honor and obedience, was that of the main thing to do within that life, specifically for that of males. And so we see for that of the father to be the head of the household, and also somewhat controlling and manipulative to keep everybody in alignment from what he felt was the truth about living that of a life. We see when this one was brought up, there was a combination of different religions. There was a bit of ancestor worship, a bit of that of Buddhism in this particular area, and with a little mix of that of paganism at the very same time, a blend of that of different religions. We see within that of the community itself where the overall practice would be the idea of working on that of a farm and being strong and being right and knowing that you're doing the right thing. And again, through that of the qualities of obedience, discipline, and honor. We see for this one to have that of a mother within this particular lifetime that was a very emotional person. We see for her to get happy or sad at the drop of a feather, so to speak. And so we see for there always to be somewhat of a difficulties between that of the parents that this one had, because that of the father was very disciplined and did not really show emotions at all, and the mother was all over the place quite often. But within this, she also had some intuitive insights. They did not come out all the time, but on occasion they would. We see when this one was born, for this one already to have an older brother, an older sister, and eventually two younger sisters as well. A part of this one's intentions for this particular incarnation was to begin to develop more of an awareness within this oneself, that to understand that respect, discipline, and that of honor was honoring one's own self, disciplining one's own self, and to see what would occur within all of the mixture of the ingredients that this one created for that lifetime, to come out on the end with more awareness and more internal direction within this oneself. We see also when this one was born, for this one to come in with some intuitive awareness that allowed that of the childhood to be very much fun for this oneself. We see for this one to stay within the present for quite a while until that of thinking mind began to take over, and that of being a boy and being a son within this particular lifetime. We see approximately 20 kilometers away when that of the firstborn male was born. 5 years later, we see for that of the one who's referred to as Alan to come into this particular incarnation. We see for this one to come in as that of a female within this particular lifetime. We see when this one was born, we see for this one to be born into that of a little larger community that had approximately 500 or 600 people within it. We see for that the father that this one had worked with metals at that particular time, as far as that of bending metals, shaping metals, usually for that of carts and so forth, and sometimes that of types of armor, things of this nature. We see for that of the father that this one had was always trying hard. His goal in life was to be the provider of that of the family, and for everybody to know how much work that he did in doing so. In other words, he always wanted everybody to appreciate him for what he was doing and what he was sacrificing. That's the way the bent of this one's ego was at that particular time. We see for this one to have that of a mother within that particular lifetime that was um, somewhat interested within more into the Buddhist perception at that particular time. She had come from that of a lineage where that of both of the parents were Buddhist, and that this one had become very well experienced within some of the basic Buddhist practices through that of the parents. And so we see as this one being the mother of this one had some understandings about trying to stay present, trying to stay into that of a place of non-judgmentalism, not to become attached to that of desire too much. And although it was her past understandings or what she was taught, she had her own struggles around this as well. We see when this one was born, a part of this one's intentions was to be able to take this information as far as that of how to bend things. And through that of the idea of the father, how to be creative within that of the physical, and at the same time to begin to bring in an intuitive, inventive part of this oneself, which would come through that of intuition or that of sensing things within this oneself. So we see as a soul awareness, we see for this one to set up that of experiences for this oneself to potentially come to that of an understanding of the importance of not just having that of a reasoning mind, but an intuitive mind, but to use that of the reasoning to express that of the intuition as far as an experiment in a way for that particular incarnation. So we see for this one was born, for this one to all have that of 4 older brothers. This one had no sisters. This one was the youngest of that of the siblings. So there was always, when this one was growing up, all of this strong male energy within the family system that this one was a part of. We see going back to that of the male, the one who was born first, for this one to grow up within that of the farming community. We see for that of the father to, as this one became that of a child, to become the perfect farmer, because that is how the father saw himself as a perfect farmer. But we see at the same time, if this one did not get things perfectly right, that of the father could be very disciplinary, not necessarily hitting this one, but emotionally, that of the father could be very strong emotionally, and it would scare this one growing up because being brought up in this kind of system, this one wanted to please the father. This one wanted to hear the father to say how great that this one was, or this one was that of the good son. And so we see for this one going through that of the childhood years, really listened to the father, did everything the father said, but this one would still get into trouble because this one couldn't get everything absolutely right. But we see for this one to, in the beginning, to not realize in beating that of the obedient son or to honor the father and to do whatever the father said, this one had still not reached the place of honoring this one's own self because this one did not know how to do it yet because this one was still somewhat young. We see as far as that of the mother would give this one encouragement to be not to be trying so hard or becoming so stressful. And so we see for that of the mother to try to intuitively help this one at times to be more at peace within this one's own self. We see in that of growing up, we see for this one to begin to have problems. And this occurred within that of the teen years. We see for this one to begin to realize this one could never please the father. It seemed like that of the father liked the other siblings better than this one, but it was still just an opinion. This one, the father treated everybody the same. Everything was around honor, everything was around that of discipline. And so we see for this one to begin to get so nervous within this oneself that this one started considering doing something else within that of life. And we see for that of sometimes the mother would suggest to this one, since this one is getting to be that of a teen now and moving into those years, maybe this one might find something else of interest within that of life that was outside of this farming community. And so that's when this one mind began to open a little bit of what is that of other possibilities. We see for this one to realize there was not much of a possibility staying within that of the same village. So this one began to try to gather information of that of other villages. And we see one of that of the villages that this one was interested in maybe going to and seeing where it was the same one where that of the female was at or would be at when this one made the choice to do that kind of experiencing. We see for that the female or the second born one here being growing up within this particular system with that of this one's father and that of the mother. We see for this one to really try to view that of life from that of the mother's perspective. In other words, how can this one stay more awake? How can this one stay more mindful when this one was barraged by that of what this one was supposed to do within that of life? And what this one was supposed to do within life was to get this oneself ready for marriage when this one became around 14 or 15 years of age. So all of the emphasis was placed upon this. But we see also for this one to be strongly interested within that of the metalwork that of the father did. In other words, this one would like to go over and sometimes see if this one could help. And we see for that of the father to let this one do a little bit of work, but not a lot. This is also true with all the brothers that this one had. We see for that of the father to teach them a little bit on how to become that of a metal worker. But we see at the same time, we see for the father to have this burdened consciousness like he was doing all the work and everybody needed to appreciate it. And so he would keep doing all of the work, even though he had resources such as that of sons or this one that would help this one. So he would only allow them to help this one a little bit. But we see while this one was helping, we see for this one to want to ease the burden of the father. It was almost like this one was picking this up from that of the mother, about this trying to create peace within the self, how to go ahead and how to make other people feel peaceful, but also try to feel peaceful within this oneself. And in other words, to try to cut past that of the rules and ask this oneself the question, why is this one here? We see for this one not to get that information from that of the father, but this one got the words or the understandings that this one was that of a soul, that this one had other incarnations. And so within that, this one was wondering, why does this one have to have that of to be just that of the female? Could this one become stronger within life or to do something else rather than that of getting married? So we see for this one to always be upon that of the father to try to teach this one how to become that of a metal worker. And with reluctance, he would begin to show this one how to make rivets within that of metals that would be used for that of types of armor at that time, or how to bend that of the iron to turn it into a circle so it could be upon that of a hub of that of a cart in some particular fashion. And it wasn't all the time, but this one was insightful. This one it would go into this one's memory as far as something that this one might be able to apply later on. But it was exciting to be able to see things and where this one could work with this one's hands. So we see for this one to now move up through these experiences to where this one was around that of 13 or 14. We see going back to that of the male who was born first. We see within that of this one feeling that sense of not being valued within that of life or never being able to get things right from that of the father's point of view. This one felt on one level that life was different and that this one had the encouragement from that of the mother. But we say also this one felt somewhat like this one was doing something wrong within this oneself because the father never gave this one the approval that this one so wanted, to be told that this one was a good son. And so we see for this one to feel this one was going to be a success somewhere else, but part of it was a failure of being around that of the father. It was a mixture of attitudes within this one self. So we see for this one to stay as long as possible, and then for this one to finally leave. We see for this one not to tell the parents and siblings and everything. And some people were excited for this one, that this one was going to go to a different place and learn new skills in some fashion. And so that is where this one went. We see for this one to leave this particular family, or the this one's blood family, and move to the very same village where that of the female was at that particular time. We see when that of the male was there, this one was trying to find that of different occupations that this one could do, rather than just being that of a farmer. And some of them would be that of a builder, that of construction, that of the use of brick and clay, that of making things in some way. But that is where this one finally came into contact that of the female's father. And so we see for that of the father to like that of this particular male. There was just something about this one that really made this one feel better. This one not knowing it was from a previous incarnation is what it was. And so we see in a way for that of this one's father, or the female's father, to hire that of the male as that of an apprentice for this one. And so that is where these two met. We see for that of the male to be approximately 20 years of age, and that of the female to be about approximately that of 15 years of age. And so we see when these ones met at that particular time, these ones did not necessarily feel a certain kind of an affinity for that of each other, but there was a commonality around that of building things. And so we see, for as far as that of the female's point of view, and since this one was supposed to move into some kind of place of marriage, maybe this one could be with that of a male that would learn the skills of the father, and then would teach this one the skills of that of the father, the more deeper parts of it, so to speak, those parts that the father never really taught this one, because again, he wanted to be all that there was, and providing that of security, and getting acknowledgement from that of the family. And so we see that is where these ones begin to get attracted to that of each other, not necessarily within that of a slightly on a physiological level, but there was also this part of there was something more important here that was supposed to happen. There was some kind of learning. And so we see for that of the male, learning that of a new skill was an exciting thing for this one to do, because it could aid this one in eventually, from that of the male's point of view, to develop a skill and get really good at it, and then eventually go back home. And then that of the father will tell this one that this one was a good son, because this one planned on bringing lots of items or that would create more wealth for that of the father. Then finally, this one would get what was due to this one, that of the father saying, "You are my good son, and you've done so well." So we see at this particular time, we see for these ones to marry within this particular incarnation. We see for these ones to both be somewhat poor. There was not a lot of finances. And so these ones lived in the same household with that of the female's family, that of the father, the mother, that of the brothers, and so forth. And this created a little bit of chaos as well, because that of the brothers were a little bit jealous of this one, because that of the father never taught them that of those detailed skills. And so they started feeling cheated. Or why does that of the father give this unknown male the knowledge that he has around metalworking, and not them within themselves? So it's set up a type of contingency. But we see by this time, most of that of the brothers of this particular family, of that of the female, were actually going off and finding their own experiences by this particular time, because they had to develop other skills, since they were not getting that of the skills from that of the father to continue on in that particular path. And so we see for these ones to marry, we see within that of the relationship, we see for that of it to be that of the exploration of being physical, obviously. But there was this other thing. How could that of the female gain this particular knowledge? And how could that of the male gain this particular knowledge around that of the metalworking? So we see in the beginning, since that of the father was teaching that of the daughter or the female, and that of the male now at the same time, this one did not mind so much that the daughter was there because they were married. So that it was okay for that of the daughter to be there when this one was teaching that of the older male here to learn how to do this kind of craft. And so the female got to do this kind of craft as well. And so it felt very, very fulfilling. So within this particular process, that was the main ingredient of that, the connection within that, the relationship. We see for that of the male to get very good at this and started actually becoming better than that of the father of that of the female. And basically was beginning to create ornamentation much, much better and much more detailed, where this one got hired by that of somebody else to do this within a type of kingdom, making that of ornamentations and making that of armor for that of soldiers, things of this particular nature. We see for these ones then to be able to have these one's own household at that particular time. And then we see for these ones for these ones this to take about 5 years. We see for these ones to have no children during this time or after. We see there was a physical way that it would not work out for these ones to have that of children within that lifetime. But we see finally for these ones to go to that of the path of that of the for these being husband and that of wife, for these ones to go visit that of the husband's father, and that of the husband or the male had brought all of these things that he had worked upon to lay out before that of the father of this one, to hear those words that this one wanted to hear. And so we see for these ones to go there, and for that of the father basically to throw this one out, basically saying you were the disobedient son. You had not followed that of the honor of me. You dishonored me by that of leaving. I don't care what you have. It doesn't mean anything. So this was that of such a shock to this one's own self, because this one did not even got the opposite of what this one was wanting. So this one to go back and to somewhat have this one's tail between this one's legs, and a feeling of a sense of unaccomplishment within this oneself, because this one took it very personally, that this one's work was not good. It was not good enough in some particular way. And so we see for this to play itself out. We see in going back to that of their own household, we see for that of confrontations to begin to occur. We see for that of the wife or the female to tell this one it was just that of the father. It doesn't mean that this one is not any good anymore, but that of the older one could not hear it. Everything was now upon that of an emotional place within this oneself. Something that this one didn't even like about this oneself, being too emotional, because that was not what this one was supposed to be like as that of a male within life. And so this one began to fragment within this oneself and to move into that of a place of depression within this oneself, where this one's began to not be as good at this one's own job. This one could not pay attention to detail. And this one was basically fired from doing that of the work that this one was doing, because it was inferior to this one's earlier work, which just proved to that of the male that this one was inferior in some particular way. So we see within this kind of situation, we see for the communications between these ones to break down, for there to be a sense of the purpose of what brought these ones together went by that of the wayside. We see for that of the female to basically say, well, this one could take over. This one knows how to do it. And that actually embarrassed that of the male more, until finally that of the male left. We see for the male to the left and to travel far off to that of the south areas. We see as far as that of the female, for this one to need to go back to this one's family. We see for this one to feel devastated within this, but we see for this one to take away a skill from this as well. And so we see that there was the disappointment of this one's father that the male left. But we see because this one had developed skills, this one was able to help the father. And the father began to allow it because this one had allowed it while that of the male was there. So within this, we see for that the female, we see for this one to feel, even though there was a loss within the relationship, this one had developed a skill within this one's own self. That it helped this one to become more than that of just a female that's supposed to get married within that of life and all that this one does. We see it inevitably for this one to remarry when this one was around that of 23 years of age. And because this one already had the skill, we see for that of the husband that this one would have was more of an artisan. And so these ones had more of a commonality and more of a different purpose within that. So it actually worked out better. We see inevitably for that of the female with that of the new husband to have that of two children, one male, one female. And we see inevitably for this one to withdraw from the physical around the age of 47. We see that the physical causation of that of death was that of just from being around metalwork so much and that of the smoke. It had hurt that of the lungs. So we see for this one to withdraw from that of a lung issue. We see for this one to have been referred to as yin cheng in that particular lifetime. We see for these ones not to connect with each other again in that particular lifetime. We see as far as that of the male, where this one went to that of the south, we see for this one to get that of odd jobs within that of sometimes helping people work with metal, but this one never reached that of the same height that this one had earlier before this one's confrontation with that of the father, which threw this one in that of a low self-esteem spin for the remainder of that particular incarnation. We see for him not to remarry within that particular incarnation because this one felt marriage was too much of a problem. And this one felt like a big disappointment within that of life. We see it inevitably for this one to withdraw from the physical around that of the age of 60. We see for that of the physical causation of that of the death was that of difficulties within that of the stomach. And it was around that of emotions is what it was. Fear, worry, rejection, a low self-esteem, that this one is not good enough, that kept eating away at this one. And so that of the physical body finally responded. We see for this one to have been referred to as in that particular incarnation as being in that particular lifetime. We see as far as that of significance for that of the past or that of the present, these ones being in that of opposite forms, that of the one referred to as that of Alan being that of the male, and the one who's referred to as that of the one male in this incarnation. There are several things that bring these ones together. And one of the things that bring these ones together is there's a sense of commonality around that of creativity, something that's created within the present time. And so that was what drew these ones together within that particular life. And obviously it has nothing to do around that of metalwork anymore, but that of creativity is that of insights. Creativity is understanding a deeper truth within one's own self. So we see between that of these ones, for that of the one who's referred, there's a great interest in creativity. But we see for this one not necessarily so interested within the mundanities of that of life. No different than that of the past life related. It was more around commonality, around that of something that's creative. So that's also a part of it here. We say also this is true for that of the male, the one who's now referred to as that of Alan. The part of the memory is a creativity. Something is supposed to be birthed from this. Within that of the past life, it was that of the idea that this one finally had the opportunity to show up and be creative in that particular lifetime, because that of the male arrived on the scene and the father finally allowed this one to learn that the in-depthness of that of metalwork, with that of the husband at that particular time. So there's a sense of gratitude within this. At the same time, there's a place of apprehension. That of the place of apprehension is things go is there a longevity within that of the experience? Because within this, there's a draw or attraction and that of a rejection at the very same time. And it's an unknown rejection, but it's the fear of rejection itself. We see a part of this would be from that of the Alan's point of view within the present time, a bit more off to the side, so to speak. But this one was really hurt within that lifetime when that of the husband left this one, because of that of low self-esteem in that in time. And so this one went through great remorse around that. Even though this one reconnected and had a happier life, there was still almost like an emotional memory to a certain extent that would make this one a bit apprehensive around that one. And so that would be a part of the mix within the present time. So it's just important to understand where that comes from, but it has really nothing to do within that of present time. But it does bring up that of memory. We see as far as that of the female, or the one who's referred to as that of Anne, from that of the previous experiencing, this one has an apprehension of reconnection, and that of the apprehension of reconnection on the more subtle levels is this one isn't going to be able to show up and do it right. And it's not just about this one. It's basically part of the experience within that of the past life related, where this one, it wasn't the relationship, it was a problem. It was this one's attachment to that of the words the father never said to this one. We see within that of the present time, this one has had experience within a relationship, and we see for this one to be skeptical within this one's own ability to create that relationship, or that of something that is healthy within that of the present time. So we see within this particular significance at the present time, there's all this potentiality of remembering who these ones are, but at the same time, it'd have this interplay of being able to show up as one is within that of life, and just be that, and to see how things work around this. Because there has to be that of the development of safety. There has to be that of the development of appreciation of what is while it is there. That of the sense of there is no danger within this particular experiencing. Because in the present time, there may be a memory of that of the past, but these ones still have different personalities within that of the present time to rearrange and work things in the way that these ones want to work that of things. So within the present time would suggest to these ones to just show up and see what happens. In other words, not to be attached to any particular kind of result, not to be attached to creativity, not to be attached to personal relationship, not to be attached to that of whatever, but to try to show up as full as these ones can be with that of the regards of showing up and being creative, and then see what happens within that of the experiencing. Because although there is that of an intuitive memory, it's still that of the thinking minds that are in charge of the experiencing. And not all two individuals have that of the same kind of thinking on what they're feeling inside of oneself, or what can be felt without that of bringing in that of previous experiencing, regardless of if it's a former lifetime or experiencing even within the present lifetime with that of other people. So it suggests it's just important to show up and see what happens. This is all. If there's any questions, this would be the time to ask questions.